so important. And I'm so glad you're bringing this to your audience, because I promise you, this affects every aspect of your life. Every single day in my virtual medical practice, we have women come to us who have been demoted in their job, or they have retired early because their brain no longer functions. They have gone through a divorce that they didn't expect because things have changed so much. And the truth is, hormones make you who you are. They give you your personality. And when they go away, you don't feel like yourself. You feel like an empty shell. Who am I? Like you said, whose body is this?
You were created to live abundantly and multiply in every area of your life. But let's be honest, the road isn't always easy.
We know that firsthand. We've been through highs and lows, from losing everything to now managing an investment fund, and we're still on the journey.
This podcast isn't about having it all figured out. It's about real stories, kingdom principles, and trusting God with what's already in your hands.
On Mandate to Multiply, we go deep into faith, family, finances, and other topics, sharing what we've learned and what we're still learning as we walk it out with Jesus.
If you're ready to think bigger, live boldly, and multiply what matters most,
then you're in the right place. We're Jonathan and Melissa Edmiston, and this is Mandate to Multiply.
all right, welcome to another episode of the Mandate to Multiply podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Melissa Edmiston, and today I have the privilege of interviewing my friend, Dr. Tabatha Barber. Dr. Tabatha and I have been in a mastermind, which I mention to you all the time. I think everybody I've interviewed, most of the women I've interviewed, have been connections through Brooke Thomas and the Live Out Loud Elite Mastermind. I always want to give her a shout out. But Dr. Tabatha, welcome. Welcome.
Thank you, Melissa. I'm so excited for this conversation.
It's going to be good. I'm going to read you guys a quick bio because Dr. Tabatha is just amazing. She is like world's most interesting woman. I think some of the things she does, I'm hugely passionate about. If you've been listening for any amount of time, or you know me, or you're my friend, or you followed me, you know that I am super passionate about functional medicine, functional root cause solutions to pretty much everything, right? I'm like, okay, here's a symptom, whether it's going on in your heart, in your mind, in your body, in your family, in your marriage. There's always symptoms that show outwardly, but you have to always get to the root cause of what is actually causing the thing to happen. And Dr. Tabatha is also very passionate about that. And that's what she does. So she's a triple, you're so amazing. You're like Wonder Woman. Triple board certified physician in obstetrics and gynecology, menopause, and functional medicine, who helps women heal their hormones, gut, and metabolism by addressing root causes, not just symptoms. As the founder of Fast to Faith, she integrates fasting, metabolic science, and biblical truth to restore physical vitality and spiritual clarity. Through her best-selling book, Fast to Faith, podcast, coaching academy, and supplement line, she equips women to steward their bodies as the temples God designed them to be. Amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. When people read the bio, I just have flashbacks to all the trials and the tribulations. And thankfully I can say that I'm grateful for them at this point. But going through them, it's like, whoo, how much more, God?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. You're like, are you sure I'm supposed to still be doing this? Feels like I'm getting kind of beat up out here.
Right? Yeah.
But it's those people that end up helping the most people and doing everything God has called them to do. So thank you we prayed right before we started recording, and I just felt really led to thank God for your grit and tenacity and persistence, because I know that it takes all of that and then some, of course, by the grace of God always, but to get to where you are today does not come easy. And there's a lot of stuff behind this that people will never see and never know and never understand. And so, but it's real. So I just wanted to honor you for all of that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So let's start with, and there's so much I want to talk to you about, okay? Because thinking of like, you talk about fasting, right? I've been fasting for 15 years. You talk about perimenopause. hello, I'm there now. And, hormones and all the things. But then most importantly is like doing it all with the proper mindset and with God, right? Because he created our bodies. So who better to go to than the creator of our bodies for something that's going on in our body, right? So understanding it from a biblical perspective, but then also understanding what's going on. And then the other thing I love that you talk about is neuroscience, which we're going to get into a little today. So just the idea of the study of our mind, of our brain, and how it all plays into our faith and being healed and whole and delivered and set free and moving into freedom, which is what God has for us and wants for us, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, he gives us free will, fortunately or unfortunately. And the sooner that you can realize you have free will and you get to choose whether or not you invite Jesus into your health journey walk, that changes everything. I didn't get that for like the first, almost 45 years of my life. I just thought Jesus was for Sunday and for the afterlife. Like, okay, I'm good, I'm saved, I'm going to be okay after this miserable, rough life. And I am so grateful that he showed me, no, I came to give you life here in life to the full right now, this life, even in this broken world. And everything started to shift when I started to see his goodness in everything.
Amen. That's so good. Okay, well, tell us how you got here. And I love that you quoted or talked about John 10:10. It's one of my favorite scriptures. And I always tell people, God did not die on the cross for you to live in misery and suffering and bondage. There's pain and trials through process and pruning and learning and growing. That's not the same as staying in a place because you're not willing to get out of it, right? Because like you said, we do have free will.
Yeah, exactly. I lived with suffering for so much of my life. And what God revealed to me was a huge amount of it was self-induced. It was my choices, my decisions that were having consequences that I had to live with and suffer through. And that was a hard pill to swallow. But then he's so gracious. He was like, but there's more. There's a deeper underlying thing of we create beliefs as children in the first 7 years of life because we are kind of in this theta brainwave state of creativity. That's why your daughter like literally thinks she's at a tea party or hanging out with princesses, even though it's just you dressed up in a dress. They are in a different brainwave state. And so they're just taking in everything like a sponge and they're creating beliefs out of those experiences. So by the time you're 7 or 8 years old, your foundation has been laid. You have decided subconsciously without your awareness whether or not you're worthy, whether or not you're loved and seen and cared for, whether or not you are in a safe place and can trust adults or other people or God. And so then we start to get on our conscious brain and we start to like become aware of things and we make decisions, but we're making them based on these beliefs that we didn't have a lot of information and we didn't have the full picture when those beliefs were born. And so I spent 40 plus years not feeling worthy, not feeling lovable, not being pretty enough, smart enough, any enough. And so I strived because I had to prove them wrong. Like nobody thought I could get through college or become a doctor or make money or get out of poverty. Like everything was based on this force of striving and pushing. And I drove my body into the pit. Like I destroyed it in the process. And so that's how millions of people, billions of people live, is we're coming from these places of not enoughness, of fear, of shame, of guilt. And then we suffer the consequences because we don't have the right heart posture, the right intention, and we don't see it. We're just like, why did you do this to me, God? Why did you forsake me? Or worse yet, I don't believe in a God because he would never allow such pain. And it's like, okay, we need to take a step back and say, what part did I play in all of this. And once I took ownership like that, I realized like, okay, I have to figure out how to stop eating the donuts in the morning and living on
Right.
M&Ms and Mountain Dew and not working out and getting 3 hours of sleep because I'm delivering babies all night and not sleeping. Like I have some say over my life.
Right.
And if I want to feel better and reverse disease and live a better life, I need to make the changes. I can't keep praying to God. He's like, you're not doing anything different. What do you want from
Right.
me? You
Right.
know?
Yeah, that's
So
so real. It's like you have to change your beliefs and then change your behavior. Both and, right?
both
Um,
and it's so hard. I've watched thousands of women come to me with their complaints, their symptoms that you mentioned from the outset. Those are messages. Our body is
right.
trying to communicate with us. I spent so long being angry with my body, like it was my enemy. Why can't you push through? Why can't you stay awake? Why do you have to be in so much pain? And my body was just like waving the white flag. We're dying over
Help.
here. This is a message. I'm trying to tell you to
Yeah.
stop carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. You're breaking your back.
Yeah.
Stop doing this. Your heavy, crazy periods are your fault essentially. And
Yeah.
so when I started to realize this, I could no longer hand out birth control pills and do surgeries and like these
Wow.
quick fix band-aid medicines. I
Because
just
you knew better.
Right, because I cared, I loved my patients, but I knew better. And I was like, there has to be a different way, Lord. And you got to be careful what you pray for. You know this, because I was praying for God to show me how to actually heal women truly, not just practice band-aid medicine. And I ended up on my back for 7 days, unable to move with a failed back surgery. And that's how he got my attention. Then we finally
Wow.
started having a conversation. And in the midst of it, I realized I hadn't eaten for almost 4 days. And I was like, Lord, what is that about? He's like,
Mm,
that is how I got your attention. You
mm,
stopped focusing on your flesh and you reached out to me and you said, Lord, I need you to heal me. And you
mm,
stopped reaching for all the worldly things. And
mm.
like once you know things, once your eyes are opened, you can't go back, right?
Yeah.
So I've just
Yeah.
been on this mission ever since to reach the 10 million women who are in perimenopause and say,
Mm.
like, this is an opportunity. This is not a bad time for you, but it's an opportunity to start to get your intuition back and learn your body and what it's saying to you. Because I promise your best years are ahead. They really are. I am now
Man.
the healthiest, strongest, most joy filled that I've ever been in my whole life.
Wow. I think that's a really encouraging promise to women in their early 40s or late 30s. And I would love to go into this a little bit more because I'll just kind of share what happened to me is, I feel like I'm the first generation to understand that perimenopause is even a thing
Yeah.
and that you can do something about it. Because what I remember from previous generations, moms, aunts, it's like you hit a point and then all of a sudden they start changing, but that means it's time to get on depression medication, or it means it's time to accept the fate of your age or getting older. And so I remember as a child or even growing up as a teenager, I remember seeing the other side of that and going, man, they don't look like they're doing too well, but they're just trucking through and they got this. And, like I can see it now even more clearly as I look back and see like, oh, that's what was happening in all of these women around me. And they had no idea and I had no idea, but now I know. And so fast forward, it seems like I woke up one day, I was 40 years old, and all of a sudden I had no idea, like, whose body is this? This is not my body. Even more so than when I delivered 3 babies, was pregnant 3 times, delivered 3 times, got my body back every single time very quickly. And here I am 40 years old. I'm like, okay, I don't recognize this body. I don't understand what this body is doing. And I want to cry all the time, a lot. And I'm angry and I'm sad. And my body's gaining weight, like in my back in weird ways I didn't even know was possible. all these weird things. I'm drenched in sweat in the middle of the night. What the heck is happening? All these things that were like snowballing and they were just like coming at me like one after the other after the other. So when you're in it though, and you're also at the same time raising children, in my case, preteens, elementary, like all these ages, you almost don't even have time to be like, okay, wait a second. Something's happening. It's different. I don't understand it and I don't like it. I need help. You just kind of like get bombarded with all of it at once. This is my story, right? And then I'm like, I wake up one day, I'm like, okay, something is not okay. This isn't normal. This can't be normal. And thank God for social media and the age that we're in today, where you start hearing people talk about it, like perimenopause and perimenopause. I'm like, could this be what I'm feeling, what I'm experiencing, what's happening? So I just, I really want to talk to you about like maybe just like a brief, basic, like what is it, who it happens to, and then what to start doing. I will say on my journey, I decided, I knew that Western medicine doctors, they weren't going to be able to help me. When I would talk to them about it, it was like, first of all, I haven't been to a Western medicine doctor and I can't tell you the last time, years and years and years and years. But it wasn't something that I knew I could just make an appointment for, because in the past, when I had gone for things, it was like, oh, that's just this, take this medication. And I was like, I refuse for somebody to throw medication at me right now. I need you to tell me what is happening in my body and why, and how do I overcome it? And not just overcome it, but be victorious. Like I want to thrive in this body until the day I die. And so I just started seeking functional medicine, root cause, holistic practitioners, like help me figure out what to do with my hormones. What do I need to be doing to overcome this? And I'm still on the journey, but I feel way better at 40. I just turned 43 and I understand what's happening more so than I did at 40. So I just want to make sure that women who are hearing this, that are either in their 30s and it will happen, or they're in it now and they're going, that's me. I would love to just give a little bit of clarity and hope to those women, and what your suggestions are, because I know you talk a lot about fasting and hormones and stuff like that. So tell us how it is, doctor.
So important. And I'm so glad you're bringing this to your audience, because I promise you, this affects every aspect of your life. Every single day in my virtual medical practice, we have women come to us who have been demoted in their job, or they have retired early because their brain no longer functions. They have gone through a divorce that they didn't expect because things have changed so much. And the truth is, hormones make you who you are. They give you your personality. And when they go away, you don't feel like yourself. You feel like an empty shell. Who am I? Like you said, whose body is this? I remember the day I looked in the mirror and I legit thought my mom was in the bathroom. I was like, what? It just shook me to my core. Like, no, how? What? That was a really sobering moment of like, okay, I am aging. This actually is happening. Right?
A friend of mine sent me a picture. I was at the beach with my son holding his hand, and she took a picture from behind, like how sweet, mom and son. Yeah. I almost cried when I saw, I'm like, yeah, because I never, like my whole body just started to deform, So yeah, I can totally relate to that looking in the mirror moment and being like, what is that?
Yeah. And I love my mom, right? And it's not all about looks. This is not vanity. This is like our identity starts to change as these hormones change. And here's another truth bomb. We used to go into menopause in our late 40s, early 50s. Like we didn't have this 10 to 15 year span that we now have of women going into this hormonal disarray at 35. Like for you to go through what you went through at 40 is really young. And so we have to go, why is that? The truth of it is, we live in a completely different world than our mothers did and our grandmothers and our great-grandmothers. We are living in a time that women never have in history, with a lot of not only external stressors of like all the emails that we get all day, all the text messages, all the constant news feeds that are driving cortisol and adrenaline production all day. Like our grandmas didn't have those chemical reactions happening all day. Right. But we have a lot more internal stressors as well. We have so much plastic in our environment. Like if you think about your childhood, you probably rarely had plastic around. I remember our first plastic cups, like they were a big deal back in 1984 or whatever it was. And so we are now living in a very toxic world. We have created over 10,000 chemicals since the 1930s that didn't exist on the planet before. So our body is in this constant toxic burden state, and that is a stressor to the body. And so when we have these constant stressors, our adrenal glands are pumping out cortisol in response. They're pumping out adrenaline, norepinephrine, and they are destroying the good microbiome in our gut, the good bacteria. Those bacteria aren't only essential to break down our food and digest our food, but they actually make our neurotransmitters like serotonin, which helps us feel good and happy, and GABA, our calming neurotransmitter. They go up the vagus nerve and they work in the synapses of our brain to help us feel like Melissa and Tabatha. And so if our gut microbiome changes, we can start to feel like a different person. The crazy thing is there's also something called the estrobolome. There are certain bacteria in our gut that cause us to reabsorb estrogen from our intestines that we're trying to poop out and get rid of. And here's what's amazing. God knew exactly what he was doing. He created those bacteria for menopausal women who no longer have the same amount of estrogen, but still need some estrogen to protect their bones and their heart and their brain. And so that mechanism really kicks into gear after menopause, and you reabsorb and recirculate and reuse this little amount of estrogen. But unfortunately, we get into this crazy dysbiosis issue with all our stress, and we are reabsorbing our estrogen before menopause. We have women in their 30s and 40s who have these bacteria in high amounts and this enzyme called beta-glucuronidase in high amounts, and it's driving like fibroids and endometriosis and infertility and weight gain and heavy periods. And so like we always want to just point to one thing and say, oh, that's the culprit. Here's the pill for it, or here's the surgical fix. And it's not like that. Literally everything is interconnected and affecting one another, right?
Yeah, it's so wild because it's like, I think the part that upsets me, you know, and I get upset is like, why isn't this something that like, why isn't hormones and everything you just said? I know the answer, but it upsets me that it's not highly discussed and talked about and served in the medical community as a whole. You know what I mean? Like, why can't my aunt just walk into her doctor and say, these are my symptoms, help me. Oh, you're in perimenopause. Oh, let's do this. How are you sleeping? And all these different things. It's like, we don't go there, and it's so frustrating, which is why I want to talk about it, because I'll be honest too, like when I hit it at first, I mean, I think I always say there's a really good side of perimenopause in that you really do start to come into yourself and be fully who you are, unashamedly, unapologetically. But that also has a bad side. Your I don't give a crap meter is full blown, like, oh, this is actually who I am, what I want and what I don't want. I actually know it really well now, and I'm not afraid to say it. So when you're married and you have this amazing man who's been by your side for 15 years, you wake up one day and you're like, yeah, no, I don't like that. I do like this. This has been bothering me for 15 years. And he's like, what in the world?
Yes.
There is a challenging side to it because you now have to realize, oh, I am full blown in this and everybody around me has no idea what's going on. Right. So now I have to understand, and like, you know, you do have to know what's going on so that you, and your husband too, like Jonathan has researched perimenopause maybe more than I have, you know, to understand when and why and how to serve me and how to, you know, help me and how to support me. But the good thing is, I mean, he has no choice. It was hard at when it first started. It was like, oh my gosh, is our marriage even going to make it? Because you know, now I'm just like, you just realize, and I can understand why. I think it's like 80% of women in perimenopause are struggling in their marriage. And we don't want that to happen, especially on this podcast, especially in our family. We want to make sure that if you're listening to this, you understand this is real and your life doesn't have to blow up because of it. And I know because mine almost did. We had to start going to counseling. I had to start learning about what was happening. I had to learn to better communicate. I had to learn to understand my body and my cycle and what week of the month it's best that we just don't have certain conversations, and to be like okay with going, no, this is actually who I am. This is what I like and what I don't. And I'm not going to any longer allow anybody or the world to tell me how to do certain things or what I like or what I don't like. If I know that I just can't go out at a certain time on a certain day or whatever, I'm going to be perfectly okay to say, no, actually, we're going to go home now because my nervous system can't handle that. And I'm okay with that. Love you. See ya. And not be afraid of hurting their feelings.
Yes, yes, that's so important. And I would pray that every woman has such a supportive partner because it does make all the difference. Unfortunately, I see a lot of women who have partners who undermine their efforts. You know, they're trying to eat better and they just bring the junk food in the house, or they make them feel guilty for wanting to start working out. Like, why do you want to get in shape? Are you cheating on me? And a lot of stuff like that. So there's so much to unpack here. First and foremost, you hit the nail on the head. We are asking the wrong people for help. So unfortunately, OBGYNs are termed women's health experts. That's what I was called. But I literally spent 4 years in the operating room. It is a surgical residency. I learned how to do a hysterectomy 4 different ways, and laparoscopic surgeries and procedures in the office, and deliver babies and do C-sections. I was literally doing surgery nonstop for 4 years. We got 1 month rotation in a menopause clinic, and I'm telling you, that was the most pathetic month of my life. I learned the difference between Premarin and Prempro, which are both synthetic nasty hormones made from horse urine, conjugated equine estrogen and synthetic progestin. And we did not learn anything about how our lifestyle, how our diet, how our mental health affects our hormones, any of it. I did my best. I really tried as an OBGYN for a decade to help women in this transition. I just didn't have the tools. And then when I was going through it myself, I was literally having such heavy periods that I had accidents during deliveries. Thank goodness I was gowned up, covered in the patient's blood, but here I am bleeding myself. And my girlfriends would laugh like, you're a gynecologist. Why can't you fix yourself? And here's the truth of it. I tried the birth control pills. They made me gain 20 pounds and they made me miserable and have no libido. And so I was trying to save my marriage and I went off of them. I tried 2 different hormonal IUDs. They made me suicidal, Melissa. I had thoughts of jumping out the window at my office as an OBGYN. I took my own IUD out. It was that sad.
Wow.
I tried to get an endometrial ablation, which is a procedure to burn the lining inside the uterus so you can't grow it every month, and it's for heavy periods. But I had 2 C-sections, and my partner was threatening to open me up during the procedure and do a hysterectomy. And I was like, I'm not doing any of that. I know what happens in the OR. You're not touching me. And so I just struggled with these heavy periods, and millions of women are doing the same thing. And fortunately, I had failed back surgery. I was dealing with herniated ruptured discs, uncontrollable Hashimoto's, all of these things. And it led me down the path to functional medicine. And when I started studying it, there was a whole section on heavy periods and all these gynecological issues. I at first was so angry, like, how did I not learn this? That the gut microbiome affects our uterus. And I just started having flashbacks to all the surgeries I did, peeling bowels off the uterus and the tubes and the ovaries because they were scarred together. We used to blame endometriosis for that. But the problem is that was coming from gut inflammation, gut infections, not the other way around. And so,
which it isn't even taught in medical school.
No, I didn't learn any of this in medical school. I had to learn it in the rearview mirror when I was going through the Cleveland Clinic Functional Medicine Institute. And so, unfortunately, we are looking to doctors who are going to medical school and learning about 90% of the same things doctors in 1940 and 1950 learned. The curriculum does not change. There's nothing about root cause. It is, what is your symptom and what pill or procedure can we get rid of it quickly in our 15-minute appointment? That's unfortunately what it's come down to. It's owned by the drug companies. I went to lunch with the drug companies 2 to 3 times a week as a medical student and resident. They taught me a lot of what I know. And so that's just the truth. We're looking to the wrong people. It's so incredible that you found that so early on, but it's an investment, right? Most of the time insurance doesn't pay for it. And so there's barriers, or people think there's barriers to it. But I'm here to tell you, like, in this day and age, you can go online and actually get some real help and true healing. You do not have to go to your doctor down the street or in the same town or whatever's covered by your insurance. Like, we have to stop using those excuses and realize that you can feel amazing, but you have to do something about it.
You have to do something different. And if you're, my encouragement and my suggestion is always to people, if you're going somewhere, anywhere, whether it's to someone spiritually, mentally, or physically in your body, so it could be a doctor, it could be a therapist, whatever it is, if you're going to somebody for help, for any issues that you have going on that you're struggling with, and their immediate answer is to give you a Band-Aid solution, to give you a pill, to give you a drug, that is not the right person to go to. Run as fast as you can in the opposite direction. Or if it's even in a therapist case, I mean, I know there's a lot of different kind of therapy, and I don't want to bash anybody, but if the person isn't addressing like childhood and how you grew up and, you know, what your environment is like and what choices you're making every day, and you're, you know, are you drinking every day? Are you going to sleep at 2:00 in the morning? Are you getting any rest time? Is your feet touching the dirt? You know, like all of those things, if they're not looking to root cause and functional solutions, then go to somebody else. And that's what I love about what Dr. Tabatha does. So I would love for you to say just briefly, let's say someone's listening to this and they're like, okay, it's me. And I went to my doctor and they told me that nothing was wrong with me. Or I went to my doctor and they tried to give me a medication. Or, you know, I know people that have gone to their doctor because they're feeling like they're going crazy, like I did when I turned 40. And then, you know, the doctor's like, oh, we should just put you on some antidepressant medication. Like, what? What about all the issues that you're dealing with? Like, imagine I would have done that. What about my heavy bleeding? What about my, you know, all that wasn't stopping or didn't go away until it finally did because I went to the right person. So what can somebody do that is sitting there listening to us going, that's me. I want to live fully alive, thriving in the body that God gave me. God did not give you something for you to live mediocre and for you to live suffering and pain, tired all the time, not sleeping. Like, that is not what your body. I know women in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and even 80s who are thriving and feel amazing. So there is no excuse. So what can somebody do who's listening to us? Like, where do they start? What is step one that they can do differently? I'm going to guess what you're going to say, but I want to see what you're going to
Well, I always say, like, just start with the free guides that I give out. Like, they're juicy little tidbits of information with some actionable steps. And you can see, have I laid a clean foundation for my body to even be healthy and reverse disease and all of that? So, like, download that and just look, like, am I getting enough sleep? Am I drinking enough water? Am I inviting Jesus into my health journey?
Yes.
And then we can invite you into other things. I mean, I run a group program where we teach women how to heal their body naturally and, you know, balance their hormones, all the things, the weight releases, they break off their old beliefs, all this stuff. And then there's some women who they need the testing. They need the stool test and the 24-hour cortisol pattern and the thyroid labs and all of that, the blood sugar and the fasting insulin. And so we have a comprehensive program in our virtual medical practice, and we have that as well. The transfers that come out of that just blow my mind every time. It's like they've just, like you said, been given the antidepressant. Can I just speak to that really quick? Because there are millions of women on antidepressants.
Yeah.
And it is actually the first line treatment, according to the American College of OBGYNs, for perimenopausal symptoms. That is what they tell doctors to prescribe when you complain about hot flashes and night sweats, is Zoloft, Paxil, Lexapro, Effexor.
That's
These
crazy.
medications have the worst side effects for perimenopausal women. Number one,
Wow.
weight gain, an average of 5 to 10 pounds. I can't handle that on my 5'4" frame. Hello.
Mm,
Loss of libido. You're
mm,
already struggling to enjoy your husband and look at him straight and you start this medication, you're going to hate
worse.
him.
Mm,
Absolutely worse. And so antidepressants can really kind of send you into a downward spiral. You thought you were
mm-hmm,
feeling bad before. I promise you, it
mm,
is not going to help. It's going to make it worse. And
yeah.
if you're on that medication, we can help you get off. There is a way to get off. I have been on 5 different antidepressants. I was given them back in my 20s. I was on them for 20 plus years. And it was all because I had a rotten gut the whole time that nobody ever taught me to fix or to heal
Mm,
as a doctor. But
wow.
once I did, I was able to wean off those antidepressants for
Mm,
good. And I've been off for almost a decade now. And
wow.
so I just want to give women hope. Like there is more answers. There is a different way. And when it comes, I always think about Jesus. He's like the original disruptor. He came
Mm,
and just like made people look at him sideways with the
yeah.
things he said and taught. And he was like, you got to quit living of this world,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
everything we do is based on Romans 12:2. You cannot conform to the pattern of this world. If everybody is
Amen.
doing it, it's probably not the right thing
Right.
to do.
Right.
You need to be
Right.
transformed by the renewing of your mind, meaning get into the
Yes.
word, get some reprogramming done.
Yes.
But you also might need some functional testing and a
Yeah.
provider to walk through and give you some gut healing protocols and give you some bioidentical hormone replacement therapy or something. But you
Yes.
deserve that conversation.
That's amazing. I love that. And I just want to be really transparent. And, I'm usually an open book if it's going to help other women. And that's kind of what I did. I went to I think I knew you at the time, but maybe you weren't in the mastermind that year. We hadn't connected. And I honestly wasn't top of mind. I'm like, now that when you went back into the master, I'm like, Dr. Tabitha does all of this. But I went to see a functional medicine practitioner. And also, a very dear friend of mine is a holistic health practitioner. So I did the hair test. I did extensive lab work, which I highly recommend. Your regular doctor will not test your hormones or your thyroid or a lot of the other really clear indicators of what's going on. Usually, I'm not going to say none do.
Right. And if they do, they probably don't know how to read those lab
Right.
results correctly. So you're
Yes.
more likely to be told you're fine, nothing's wrong with you because they're
Yes.
looking at the reference range. And those reference ranges are for tumors and disease and hospitalized people.
Yes.
So I don't even recommend asking your regular doctor to
No.
order that stuff because
No.
you'll get a false sense of there's nothing wrong.
You're right. I just did my labs again. And I love that she said to me, we don't go by what the lab company, the testing company says is where you should be.
Yes,
Because those are based on sick people, usually,
exactly.
right? They're based on the majority of the population. The majority of the population is sick. And so
Yeah.
she bases it off what's optimal. And I'm like, I want optimal. I want thriving. I want fully alive in every part of my body, mind, soul, spirit, everything. So I did full labs and I've been on supplements and am on hormone replacement therapy. And I mean, I've had to do a lot of different things. I have to change, what time I go to bed and what time I wake up, how I work out, when I fast, when I don't fast, which we're going to talk about next. So I'm doing all the things and it's just constantly a work that I'm intentionally building, but I feel so much better than I did before. And I want to speak to what you just said with the depression, because I would say based on my journey, really over for a long time, right? I've always had my mind is just quick to go places a lot, I just always have had where I really have to be intentional what I'm thinking. And, spiritually, I'm a prophetic person and God shows me things. And so that sometimes brings you see way more than you want to, and your mind can kind of go a little off the deep end. And there are times where that's, I'm just going to be honest. I have to fight for, the peace in my mind, anxiety, thoughts that I shouldn't be thinking. That's just real. Right.
Yeah.
So if I went to a doctor and told him what I actually think, Maybe check me into like a crazy person place sometime.
Yeah, they'd be like, here's your Xanax. Should we check you in?
For sure, they'd put me on it. But you know what? What I've done instead is two-part. It's like you said, I'm making sure to take control of my gut, my hormones, my health. And then the spiritual side of it, because God created us to be a multifaceted, creation, is I make sure to take every thought captive. And when I think all the thoughts, I'm having to go, well, no, that's not what God would say. That's not what he said. What does his word say? And I'll even have to catch myself thinking, saying, no, that's not true. God says I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. No, that's not true. God gave me my husband as provision and the man to like lead my life and to be married to. I have to just talk out loud the opposite of where my mind goes. And so I just want to encourage you that the whole like depression medication, I'm not a doctor. I'm not trying to give you medical advice, but I do believe that there are other ways. And Dr. Tabatha just, said the same and confirmed it. So thank you for saying that. So the show notes will have the guides that you mentioned so that anybody can go and download those and then look into first start there and then look into working with you however they can, or somebody in the functional medicine space that's going to look at root cause and do all of your blood work and all of the different tests that are available to see like what is actually going on in your body.
Yes. Don't give up. Have hope. Like you heard this episode for a reason. It might be an answer to your prayers, or maybe it's for your daughter or your mom or your best friend, somebody in your life who's struggling and who is just breaking your heart. So like every woman needs to know that they don't have to struggle and feel miserable, because it's just a distraction, Melissa. If we are focused on all of our diseases and our medical problems and in the office all the time, like then we're not doing God's work. We're not doing what we're here to be doing. And that is really frustrating to me. And I just want to help women, feel better so they can go and do what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Amen. I'm with you. I do believe it is a big distraction, and you are not going to be able to focus on everything that God wants you to do or focus on and be just full of joy if you are struggling with all of these different issues that they happen. It's real, but there are ways to live free from it and at least thrive as much as possible. Yeah. Okay. I think I do want to ask you one more thing. I think we're going to have to do a part 2 if you're okay with that.
Because I almost always do 2-parters on podcasts. That's just how it rolls.
I mean, you could probably do a 10-part with you. You're like, you're the amount of knowledge and experience and just wealth of wisdom that you have. We could talk for days, and they're all topics that I'm so passionate about and have been for years and years and years. But I want to do a part 2 on neuroscience specifically, because this is something that I've been diving deeper into recently in realizing I've been a Christian for 15 years. No, I've been a Christian for 17 years. And yet there were years where it was like, I was like, the blood of Jesus, the blood of Jesus, the blood of Jesus. I'm whole, I'm healed, I'm free, I'm delivered. And yes, that is all true. But there's actual work that takes place on my part to actually renew my mind and understand my mind, understand trauma and my past, and, anything that anybody has walked through or ways that they have been brought up. And it doesn't necessarily have to be trauma, although most people have experienced some sort, maybe extent of trauma. But let's just say you grew up a certain way, hearing a certain thing, believing a certain thing. Yes, Jesus can change everything in a moment, but you do have to do the work to rewire your brain to change that belief so that you can then change your behavior. It takes our work, right? So part 2, I would love to do it on just the topic of Jesus and neuroscience.
Yeah, we have to go there, because there's a big fight out in the world of like, I was raised Christian. I was raised Catholic. I left the church. I had church hurt. Bad things happen. I went full on New Age. And here's the truth. New Age principles work. Manifestation works, hypnotherapy, sound baths, meditation, all of these things. And here's the truth of it. These are universal principles that God created. He set them up, just like gravity, just like everything else scientifically and mathematically. They work because he created them. them, but New Age is missing the source. So they hit a ceiling. Yes, you can make more money. Yes, you can manifest, and get yourself to the gym every day and like rewire your brain and do the hypnotherapy to change some childhood beliefs. But if it's not bringing you to Jesus, it's falling short. And so I am here to say, like, let's figure out the principles that God set up and how to use them for the kingdom, how to get closer to him, how to do his work, because he has given us power and authority in this life. And most Christians, unfortunately, think that was only for like Paul's time, like back in Acts. That's not actually what's happening now. And Jesus said, the things I'm doing now, you will do even more when I go to the Father. So he expects us to be activating this power and this authority over the earthly realm. And we're not taking ownership or responsibility yet again. And I want to encourage women, like, you can become unstoppable if you start getting Jesus to back everything you're doing, like it's so good. And the joy that you find is incomparable. I couldn't find that in the sound baths and the Dispenza meditations and all of these places, because I was needing Jesus at the center of it, right? So we need to talk about all of it.
Yeah, that's real. I mean, that's something that has been on my heart to talk about lately more than ever, because I'm seeing so many people in the world talk about, the sun, the moon, and the stars, and the sound baths and the manifesting. And I'm like, it breaks my heart, because I know, like you just said, if you go to the creation without acknowledging the creator, there's a huge problem. Number one, you put all the weight on yourself. And we were not designed to carry that. Right. And so ultimately you're going to get to a point where you will burn out, and it's like a cat chasing its tail. You're just constantly trying to reach it, but you'll never actually get it, because you're trying to get it without the person who created it for your benefit.
Exactly. Right? But like you said, when you get saved, you think it's magically all going to change, and like your life's going to be easy or good or fruitful. And then when it's not, you get really disappointed and frustrated of like, God, where's the promises? What happened? Right. I thought you loved me. And so we have to reconcile with how God actually structured us as humans on this earthly experience with the principles he set up, and how we work with them to actually have life to the full. So we got to have that conversation.
We need to. Good. It's going to be good. I feel like that will be its own. That's all we're going to talk about. Because it's so real. And like you said, there's a problem on both sides. New Age thinking is doing it all without God. Christians are doing it all with God and not doing their part.
They're not. Or they're not doing the power. They're not using the tools that Jesus gave us.
Right.
Like, I could go. Oh yeah.
We're gonna. That'll be good. That'll be good. We're gonna talk about that. Stay tuned for part 2 with Dr. Tabatha. It will happen. We're gonna schedule it before we get off of this call. Okay, Dr. Tabatha, the last question I have for you for what we're talking about today. And again, the free guide to intermittent fasting, the free guide to balancing your hormones naturally. That's all going to be in the show notes, as well as every way that you can reach Dr. Tabatha. But I want to ask you about fasting, because I started fasting when I started doing CrossFit. And that's like how I learned about the whole world of clean eating and what you put in your body and what you put on your skin, all that. It was such a gift. So I fasted that was like 16 years ago. I started fasting. However, when I hit perimenopause, I started hearing different chatter about don't fast. You have to eat all the food all the time. You need to have the 30 grams of protein as soon as you wake up. I'm like, I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get in my Bible. I am not putting eggs in my mouth at that time. It's just not happening. So I'm kind of in this like tension where I'm like, I know fasting worked for me very well for many years, but now I'm hearing all this talk about cortisol and that I can't fast. It's not good for me. And I should be eating all the protein all day long. So tell me, Dr. Tabatha, what do I do, or what do we do if we are in perimenopause? And I do spiritually fast. I do 3-day water fast, 4-day water fast, but I used to fast 2 days a week at least. And then even some seasons I used to fast every day, 18 hours. So tell me, what what is the scoop on fasting? And then I'm going to make sure that I read your book. Dr. Tabitha has a book called Fast to Faith. I highly suggest all of you purchase it. It'll also be in the show notes. But yeah, tell us about fasting.
Yeah, so this could be an entire episode in and of itself. Let's just be honest here.
Part
But
three.
the truth is, we're not little men, and we're not the same people that we were in our 20s and 30s. And so we do have to do things differently. And fasting is one of them. God did create our bodies to fast and feast. That is how he designed it. There is a sugar burning mode where we, break down our carbohydrates and we utilize that as fuel. If we don't use it, we store it as fat. And then there is a way to burn fat for fuel, and we make ketones. That's the other pathway to it. And then protein is in there as well. But we are all stuck in sugar burning mode. We are like eating a lot of carbohydrates, especially if you're vegan and vegetarian. I love you, but you are living on the sugar wagon, because the legumes, the rice, all of that is just a bunch of sugars connected together. That's what carbohydrates are. And so it's really hard to fast from a sugar diet, to go from sugar mode to fasting. And so you have to get into fat burning mode. You have to start to get into more of a ketogenic diet, so that when you do remove food, your body goes, oh yeah, we're already in beta oxidation. This is already happening. And you don't have the crash of the sugar cravings and the hangries and the jitters and all the things. And because that's when women say, oh, fasting doesn't work for me. It's because you came off the sugar diet. You didn't get into ketosis first. And the other piece of it is, most women over the age of 45, sometimes even 40, they just do better with a lower carbohydrate, higher fat, higher protein diet. Fat and protein are more satiating. They keep you feeling full longer. They give more energy per buck. So if you are eating mostly carbohydrates, you do need to eat every couple hours, because that source is gone. It's already stored as fat, and your blood is looking for its next sugar fix. So we have to get into more fats and proteins, but we do need carbs, because our thyroid is different than men's thyroid. Our thyroid was designed to create life. And so if it feels like you're starving or not getting food tomorrow, it will turn down your metabolism. It will say, oh gosh, we can't procreate over here. We can't make life. So we better turn down the metabolism, hold the fat harder. And so we just have to do things differently. And the Fast to Faith 40 program is this progressive thing where we break up with sugar, we get into a ketogenic diet, we remove one of the meals, we see how you feel, and then we start to accordion your fasting window. Because if you just do 16-8 all the time, I get this a lot from Jen Stevens girls, and I love Jen, she's my girl, but there is a huge fasting world out there where they just eat in a certain window, and your body is incredibly designed. It has innate intelligence that says, oh, that's her new baseline. I guess we'll just keep her here now, and people plateau. So if you are looking to release more weight and really gear up and reverse disease, you can't do the same thing every day. You have to have diversity in all of that. And so I teach women how to carb cycle, how to accordion into a 3-day water fast, how to go from a dinner to dinner fast once a week and bring those high carb days in. And that is where the magic happens. You got to keep your body guessing, because if you do the same thing, eat the same foods, you don't change it up seasonally, all the things that God designed us to do, then you're not going to thrive. So
wow, that makes so much sense, to go off of the way that God created your body, and then the way that he created like everything, seasons, right? Cycles, all the things that are cyclical and intentional by design, aligning our body to that. I love that.
Exactly.
So what is, that's your which
that's
program
Fast
is that?
to Faith. So
Fast to Faith. Okay.
You can do the program from the book. The 40 days is in there, but we have a live community where I lead calls every Monday. I teach, I answer all the questions, and then we do this practice that makes Fast to Faith different, something called Lectio Divina. We meditate on one scripture each morning. That's all you do. For 5 or 10 minutes, you ask God, what are you saying to me through this verse? And you journal, you write it down, and you cultivate this relationship with him. like every single day. And when you start your day like that, you're going to start making different food choices. You're going to move your body differently. You're going to have a deeper reason to get healthy than to just fit in your swimsuit. And so it's like transformational. Fast
I
to faith is
love that.
everything. It's so good.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I cannot wait. I'm so glad we talked about that last part because I feel like that would be a huge, huge blessing to so many of the women listening that maybe can relate to some or all of the things that we shared. Okay. So we're definitely doing a part 2 on neuroscience, maybe even a part 3 just on fasting. Dr. Tabatha, thank you so much. Is there anything that you wanted to say before we wrap up? I just want to make sure I give you some time if you want to share anything specifically or say anything.
Oh my gosh, I'm just excited for the women who are listening to this today because I know they needed to hear it. They got blessed with some golden nugget. I have a podcast, Fast to Faith, and I talk about all of these medical things. So if you're like, I am just seriously struggling with this thyroid issue, like go search Fast to Faith thyroid. There are episodes on there. There are answers. And I understand like there's infobesity right now. There's so much information. We're just fat with it. It's not helpful. It's not transformative. But if you step into the Fast to Faith world, like you're going to see the difference. It's going to be incredible.
Awesome. And we'll have that in our show notes too. So everyone can find your podcast, find you, find your guides, your programs. I think you are just like such an answer to prayer for so many people. So for so many women, I'm really excited, and men. I'm excited to just have people hear your heart and your wisdom and hopefully start the process and the journey or continue it if they're already on it with just the right information, the right tools, the right resources, and the right next steps. So like you said, we can hear all the things, but like, what do I do next? What do I do today? What is one change I can make to just start this process and this journey? So I'm excited and so grateful for you.
Oh, me too. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Tabatha. And we will see you guys next time. Remember, if this was helpful or beneficial, I highly encourage you to share this with the women in your life. I guarantee you there's at least one, if not a few, that are walking through similar things in perimenopause or menopause, and even just their faith and renewing their mind. So share this with them. Leave us a 5-star review if it was something that you were blessed by. And we cannot wait to see you next time. Bye. Hey guys, so as Dr. Tabatha and I were speaking on that amazing podcast episode, there's something that I wanted to bring up and forgot to mention. When we got off the call, I'm like, this is so important because one of the things she said was how, and this happened to her, and I know so many people that this has happened to. I have had instances where it's crossed my mind. So I know this is real. And it's that we come into Christianity either when we first become a believer and give our life to Jesus, or somewhere along the way where we're like, this is hard. This is too hard. Nobody ever warned me or told me about how difficult Christianity actually is. And I don't want to blame the churches because not all churches the same. Some churches are amazing. Some churches fall short. We're all human. Thank God for the church, right? But we are all the church as a body. But I believe that when we are saved, I almost wish it was a little different. It's like, I feel like if you are saved in a church, it's like, give your life to Jesus and he is going to set you free and it's going to be so amazing. You're going to be on this beautiful journey with the Lord, and then you're going to bring everybody with you and you're all going to go to heaven. It's going to be amazing. And yes, that's true. I don't know that we have done a good enough job warning people of what Christianity is actually like. Like, what is Christianity actually? And Christianity is the all-out pursuit of knowing Jesus, and in the process, having our flesh and everything about us that is not like him die so that we can become more like him and so that we can live more free. But in order to have breakthrough and freedom and remove bondage and remove old mindsets and old beliefs and old patterns, that process in and of itself is challenging and it feels difficult and it feels like you're dying. It means your friend group changes. It means your behavior changes. It means the things that you used to do that were comfortable and normal, you probably don't do anymore. It means that the way that you used to think about things, you probably have to change that. It means the way you used to respond to things, naturally, probably not the way you're going to respond as you're becoming more like Jesus, as you're growing in intimacy with him, as you're intentionally spending time every single day in his presence, at his feet, in the word of God, reading it on a daily basis, no matter what. That all takes work, and it's not glamorous and beautiful all the time, but you're going to have trials and tribulations and difficulty in this life no matter what. So why not do it when you know that you have Jesus as your rock, as your fortress, as your savior, as your redeemer, as your strength, as your comfort to fall on, to lean on, to be with, versus going through all of it and being alone. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have him, you're going to go through it anyways, except you're not going to have anything to fall. You're not going to have anyone to lean on, nor is it going to be unto anything that's good or goes to another level, right? It's like you're a Christian. It's going to be hard and challenging and you have to change some things. But when you do, on the other side of that is growth and change and freedom and breakthrough, where you're going to go through it in the world or without him. You're still going to have those trials, except nothing comes after that. So I just want to encourage you, because I think that's something I probably just do a whole podcast episode just on that topic. But the reason I wanted to share it here and now is because this past Thursday, I did Mandate to Multiply's first ever monthly call, where we just want to get together. We want to talk about like real talk, like what's going on in your life? Where are you at? Are you in a season of transition? Are you in a season of change? Are you building something? Are you doing something new? Do you want to know more about Jesus? Do you want to know more about how to walk with him? Do you want to be encouraged? Like just a table, virtual table where we can all come together to talk about our God-given mandate to multiply in our finances, yes, but also in every other area of our life. And I'll tell you that of every woman that was on that call last week, they all shared the same thing. It's like, we want to know Jesus more. We want to know how to hear from him. We're stepping into something new. God's calling us into a transition. And they just want like more encouragement, more support, and more tools and how to do that. And as I look at my life being a Christian for 17 years, for a long time, I didn't understand what actually being a Christian was, and that I needed to be in the word every single day. And I needed to be praying every single day. I needed to prioritize my life to spend time with Jesus on a daily basis. And that be my number one main focus and main pursuit. And then everything else would fall into place. And I also didn't realize how hard it would get, and that it's very challenging to start dying to your flesh and dying to yourself. And that process doesn't feel amazing. And sometimes people in that, they're like, I'm out. This is too hard. And it's easier to quit, because it is easier to kind of numb out to things and not have a mission and not continue on something. It's easier to quit, but that's not what we're called to do. And that's not the best thing for us. And so all these women shared that same thing. So when I heard Dr. Tabatha say what she said, I was like, man, I got to remind everybody of this call. So it's the first Thursday of every month at 12 o'clock. Just show up, have your camera on if you can. You can share, because I'll ask you if you want to. You cannot say a word and be silent and just listen. Totally up to you. So yeah, we'll put the link to that in the show notes of this podcast episode. And I hope to see you all there.
Before you go, remember, God can use anything. Even the hardest parts of your story can become seeds for multiplication.
If this episode encouraged you, share it with a friend, leave a review, or subscribe so you never miss a moment of hope and truth.
You can also follow us on Mandate to Multiply on Instagram or mandatetomultiply.com to keep growing with us.
Until next time, trust God, steward well what's in your hand,
and live a life fully multiplied.